down defensively. I like to score a lot for counter offense. And then also the attacks that I do have, I like to keep them explosive and really, really fast. So part of the reason why I kind of developed this style is because, like I talked about before, I didn't have a whole lot of wrestling when I got to college. So I needed to close the gap and figure out how to win as quickly as possible, or at least from a skill standpoint. So I figured like my hand fight was pretty fine. I mean, I'm known for hand fighting now, but I figured I had great defense when I got to college. It was really hard to score on people when I was a freshman. And so I would end up in the short offensive position a ton. Right? I'd be here, I would sit back, I wouldn't have a lot of offense. Guys would pull the trigger, boom, and I might end up here every single match. So I figured if I could get really world class here in this short offensive position, I could score points on every single person that I wrestle, because I know for a fact I'm going to end up in this position at least once every single match. So, and then the other part is just being very fundamentally sound, not really coming out of my stance, and also having a very, very strong hand fight. Very persistent, where I'm wrestling not just here and I'm just kind of mindlessly putting my hands on somebody. I'm controlling the inside, I have a system, I know where I want to be, I know where I want to spend the majority of the match. And not just that, but I spend a lot of time wrestling in these 50-50 stalls. A lot of times when you're wrestling and you're hand fighting, your opponent's hand fighting your back, he clears tie, boom, you're back inside, he clears your tie, you re-engage. There's a couple moments in the match where you're both just not doing much and you're waiting to feel what the other guy's doing. And it's these in-between moments where a lot of opportunities come, right? I like to call them 50-50 stalls, because I'm not really doing a whole lot, he's not really doing a whole lot, and it's 50-50. I don't have a ton of control, he doesn't have a ton of control, and we're not quite stalling, but we're anticipating, we're sitting, we're waiting, we're being patient. And so, boom, I put my hands on him, he wrestles, he moves, controls the tie, I get to my tie, I punch, hook, he clears, boom, and now we're just kind of here for a second. Maybe I re-engage, and now we just pause for a second. And I'm waiting to see what he does, he's waiting to see what I do. And these 50-50 stalls, these little in-between moments is where a lot of wrestling can happen. And so, you don't want to be the person that's just sitting back and waiting. Once you realize that you're kind of in one of these moments, this is where you want to start to create opportunity, okay? So we'll spend some time going over that, and then we'll get into very specific things on what I personally like to get to when I'm in these 50-50 stalls, what I like to do to generate offense, and then also from a defensive standpoint, what I like to do to, one, defend the shot, and also counter and create opportunities for that short offensive position. So we'll just start defensive, okay? So one thing that I learned my freshman year that I used all throughout my college career is this defensive series Pat Pop likes to go over called chest wrap handle, okay? So let's say my opponent takes a shot, shoots a single leg, boom, maybe I stuff his head inside, I sprawl. Pat liked, he was really, really long. I don't really have the longest arms for my weight, but he liked to get a deep chest wrap. And there's often times where he would get his arm all the way across, and he would start looking for the hamstring or the ankle. And even if this guy's off 2 knees and he's looking to get the corner, right? If I'm deep here, when I'm looking for this position and I'm looking to work the chest wrap ankle, the reason why it works is I'm creating a ton of pressure as I square up. See how my hips are out? I want my hips in, and I'm creating a ton of torque with this arm by pulling across like I would have a tight waist, right? When I'm looking to tight waist turn somebody, I'm getting this arm deep, and then once I get all the way across, when I jump to the far side, I don't let my arm slide, because that takes off all the tension and the pressure and the control. So when I go deep for the tight waist chop, everything stays tight. Same idea here. I go deep, everything stays tight. I'm looking for the hamstring and ankle. And this leg stays long. If I bend this knee, right, I take off the pressure that I'm applying with my hips. And now, I'm not creating length. I'm not getting them long anymore. And I want to keep this pressure and stay as heavy as possible. So I want this leg that he has long. And as I do this, I'm going to pinch my elbows back. And I'm going to pull my chest into his body. So, this is really, really uncomfortable for the bottom guy. It's not the most fun thing to drill because it's a ton of pressure. Here I got a lot of weight. When I add the chest wrap, and I add the hamstring and the ankle, now I got even more weight. And I become a lot heavier just from how I'm using my arms. Here, yeah, there's a ton of pressure. Okay? I get the chest wrap, the hamstring, I can pull and add even more pressure. And when I do this, I don't want to come up to my knees right away because now I take the pressure off. I want to keep the pressure constant. Boom. So what I'll do is I'll keep this leg long. The way Pat likes to teach it is I'm going to use this leg, and this leg is going to pull me around. Okay? So let's say he takes a shot. Boom, stuff the head side. Sprawl. Even if my hips are a little high, that's fine. Sometimes I'll lock both my hands and things start to build up. And I'll pull this into my chest and throw my hips in. Let go. Look for this hamstring. Start going around. And this is really, really heavy. And it's super annoying to deal with. Okay? So, are there any questions right now?